All right, I'm going to be honest. I'm a little impatient. So let's just go ahead and get started, team. Welcome to this PayTrace webinar. My name is Sam Johnson. I will be your sales trainer today. And I'm actually coming to you from a different location than I normally am. I'm in office at the PayTrace studio, getting things set up here for some future production. So if you guys like these types of live events, webinars, interviews, podcasts, all that type of stuff, stay tuned because we're going to have a lot more of that here in the very near future. But that's not why you're here. You're here because it's time for a PayTrace webinar. This is our B2B 102 course. A little bit of housekeeping before we get into things here. If you haven't been on PayTrace webinar before, which looking at our list of attendees, I recognize most names, but there are a few unfamiliars. These are 30-minute sessions to give you some information on PayTrace, on the industry, on B2B payments, that you can take with you and hopefully mold that into success for yourself. You will notice as you are logging in here that you are muted. That is very intentional. It's not because I don't want to talk with everybody, but we do want to reduce background noise and distractions. So with that said, if you have questions, comments, or emotional outbursts, please wiggle your mouse around your Zoom panel. You'll see a button that says Q&A. Send me questions in there. We'll take about 5 minutes, depending on how many questions that we have at the end of today's session, to knock those out. But if you do have follow-up questions after the fact, I'll also provide you some contact information. So I think that's it. Let's go ahead and get into the good stuff. So I mentioned this is the B2B 102 course. This is the second course in a 3-part series. If you weren't able to attend the 101 course live, fear not, fret not, because we do have that recorded, and these courses are mutually exclusive. So while it does help you to watch all 3 of them, each one of these has its own values to them, and you don't need to see every single thing out of all of them. So on today's agenda, this 102 course is titled Finding Success in Untapped Markets. And really the goal for this one is we're going to demystify a little bit of what is a B2B merchant by actually giving you some real data and SIC codes on some of the types of businesses that are partners and that we've seen a lot of success with as an organization, as a gateway. So we're going to start off this course doing a little bit of a refresher. So we're going to talk about some things like level 2 and level 3 processing, just general B2B payments. From there, we're going to shift into the actual data. So we're going to take PayTrace data from our system and share with you some numbers, processing volume, average ticket information that I think can be super helpful to you as you are prospecting. And then we're going to wrap this up with some tips from some of the experts. I would like to consider myself an expert, but I'm not feet on the street selling this like you guys are. So I reached out to some of our most successful sales partners and asked them, well, what are some of the keys to your success with PayTrace? So we'll get you in and out of here in half an hour. It's lunchtime here. I got barbecue waiting for me out in the kitchen. So we're going to get through everything. But like I said, I've got some pulled pork waiting for me. So let's talk a little bit about the opportunity. If you were on our 101 course last week, this will be a familiar slide, but I really like the numbers on this because it paints a good picture of the scope and just the total amount of dollars being processed in the space. And I think this is really important for us as we do build out our book of business to know where all the opportunity lies. Now, on this chart, essentially what it does, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but it's breaking down all of the United States payments, right? All payments into 3 categories: consumer to consumer driven payments, right? Between 2 individuals; business to consumer payments, which are payments between a business entity and an individual consumer; and lastly, business to business, which, right, it's kind of the title and the theme of this course. It's 2 businesses, 2 merchants transacting with one another. Now, reason why I really like this slide is because B2B is the biggest, and it's not even close, right? The B2B market share of total annual spend in the US is $24 trillion. if you add up all these numbers, $24 trillion makes up roughly 60 to 70% of all transacted volume, right? Much more than retail payments, restaurant payments, hospitality, all that stuff, right? So when you're looking at, where is the growth opportunity, where can you find the most processing dollars, it is in B2B, right? So that's why this is super important, right? Because it is widely untapped. When we look at the payment space with ISOs and processors and agents, right? Everybody is focusing on retail payments, and there's just a lot to be had out there, kind of greenfield prospecting, if you will. So one of the biggest values, there's a lot of values, right, that are important to business focused merchants, right? Accounts receivable is going to be big. Days sales outstanding, right? Making sure that we have very positive cash flow and accelerated payments is going to be very important. Integrating into your systems is important. But one thing that's really easy to describe and that has an immediate obvious impact is interchange, right? Accepting payments, there's an expense to it. And one of the largest expenses to that is interchange. And while interchange isn't going away, and there's different ways that we can subsidize that, I think one of the biggest ways that we can make a direct impact is through a program called Level 2 and Level 3 processing. Not going to do a super deep dive on here on this. We've got other courses dedicated for Level 2 and Level 3. But as you can see on this little infographic, it's breaking down the different rates that different card types can receive. Specific to this is a commercial card, right? So this is a B2B type of credit card that we'd expect a business to pay with. And to qualify for Level 2 or Level 3 means that the merchant can save a pretty significant amount of money, right? You'll notice here that a Level 3 qualification is 1.9% versus something that's a downgrade or non-qualified can be as high as 3.15. Right? So when you do the simple math, that's 1.25% difference or 125 basis points that merchants, right, can save if they're accepting these types of credit cards today. And that is a big deal, right? 125 basis points, granted, right? That's going to be on the high end of the spectrum. I can confidently say, 60 plus basis points on average. In potential savings, if we're able to take merchants from non-Level 2 or Level 3 to Level 2 or Level 3. That's Visa. This is a MasterCard example, right? These are current numbers as of this recording, right? So there's some good stuff in there. And what I like about this too is that because this is coming off of interchange, that this is not affecting your rates, right? So if you're in payment sales, you're not having to necessarily discount your own value and drive down your rates. As a lot of us are aware of, it's becoming kind of a race to the bottom, who can get as close to zero as possible and still stay profitable. That's not good business practices for us. So with this, right, when we're able to affect interchange, drive down some of those fixed costs, we're not touching our margins. In fact, we can take some of the value that's saved from this and build that into our pricing structures, right? Whether that's interchange plus or flat rate or tiered pricing, right? You can get very creative, and now you have a lot more pricing flexibility to find what makes the most sense for you and what makes the most sense for the merchant, so that they're still getting their value and you're still getting yours. So again, this was all review from our previous course, but I think this is important because it kind of leads into the data, right? How do we read this data? How do we read this information that I'm about to share? So this is going to be very data heavy. I'm not going to lie. I put together a few charts on here. There's a lot of numbers. There's going to be a lot of SIC code. So just to preface that, there's going to be lots to digest. So I will say, if you would like, you are welcome to screenshot these, take pictures. I'm also able to send you a PDF of the next couple of slides if you request it, just to get an idea on some of the businesses that we see a lot of success with. So again, I'm going to share with you a lot of data. I'm going to try to make it all make sense, and we'll go from there. So this first chart that I've put together talks about the highest overall level 2 and level 3 processing merchants. So these are the SIC codes, right, or MCC codes that we have in our system of merchants. And what this is showing you is the total amount of level 2 and level 3 eligible credit cards, right? Total volume of that. And then also in the second column here, you'll see that we also estimate the savings based off of, I want to say maybe 70 basis points on this. Right, so this is top 10 list. So number 1 on here, industrial supplies. Right, pretty much general wholesalers. This could be a lot of different types of merchants. Generally, when I think of industrial suppliers, I kind of think of those industrial parks. You know what I'm talking about? They've got the big bays for the trucks and maybe warehouses and things like that. Those types of merchants process a lot of volume, right? This is over the course, this is annualized. So over the course of a year, this type of merchant in total processed $2.02 billion, right? If we break that down into estimated savings, right, these merchants are saving over $14 million off of interchange. Just a lot of money. Going down the list, medical, dental, hospital equipment, I will say post 2020, we saw a huge uptick in this SIC code, and it never really petered out. Right, so these are not necessarily the hospitals or the doctor's offices themselves, which, just to call out, could be good merchants for PayTrace, but these are their suppliers. So not long ago, I actually went to the dentist and did my kind of biannual teeth cleaning and semi-annual. And I was sitting there and I'm just kind of bored waiting for the dentist. So I'm looking around and I counted about a dozen different dental suppliers that they were using for their tools, for their masks, for their fluoride, for their x-ray machine, right? I was poking out different, all these different types of manufacturers, right, of who's actually producing these supplies. And then there's the actual wholesalers who are the ones distributing these to all of the dentists and the doctors and all of that. So, right, medical supplies, awesome SIC code. That's almost 100% B2B, and they process a lot, right? They eclipse the $1 billion mark with us. You are going to see a few kind of, I guess generic might be the right word for this, in commercial equipment, durable goods, business services, non-durable goods. These are kind of catch-all SIC codes for a business that might not fall under a very specific MCC. So again, these are going to be very similar in the fact that they're selling things, right? Some durable goods, they're selling physical stuff to people, typically wholesalers. Non-durable goods, in the same realm. Business services, right, while they aren't going to fall under like a CPA or a marketing firm or advertising, I'd put them somewhere in that realm. You know, PayTrace could be considered a business service, even though we're software. So, right, think of those. Another one that I will point out, construction is a really large industry. That's going to be primarily B2B, right? If it's B2C, it's going to be small projects, kind of residential types of projects. But construction is going to be working with government, municipalities. They're going to be working with large commercial organizations to build and remodel and all sorts of things like that. So while it says this is the material side of things, which is great, construction as a whole, right? The actual builders and contractors, and then the actual materials themselves, I think are two separate things. Right, so we've got the contractors on here as well. You've got more medical, and then motor vehicle supplies, right? So parts, service is going to be further down the list on here, but servicing, right? So all those commercial fleet, things like that, those are going to be a good fit. So, right, highest overall, top 10 list. On to the next one. I wanted to try to get a few different SIC codes in here, so I ran a few different kind of concepts. So what this one is the highest percent of level 2 and level 3 volume based on their total transaction amount. So what this list is really showing us is that when these merchants are accepting card, what percentage of those are level 2 or level 3 cards versus maybe a consumer card. And I was actually super surprised by this list. I thought there were some really interesting ones on here. Number one being stationery stores. So again, what this number is telling us, 83%, is that out of every $100 that are settled, 83 of those dollars are level 2 or level 3 eligible. Now you may ask yourselves, Sam, what the heck is a stationery store? I had that question, so I had to do some research. Because when I think of stationery stores, I think of like Hallmark, right? You go and get your stationery. Weird SIC code. Really what this is more office supply, right? When I dug into some of the actual merchant accounts, these are going to be office suppliers. So where are you getting all of your office supplies, your paper, your equipment, your staplers, your printers, toner, all that stuff, right? Who's going to be your office supplier? There's large companies that do that. Right? They're going to be primarily B2B, right? These are going to be more wholesale. So they're not going to do much direct to public types of transactions. I like to think of, if any of you guys are fans of The Office, right? Dunder Mifflin, they might fall under that. More likely they'll fall under number 4 on here, printing and writing paper, but there's a lot of crossover on that. So Dunder Mifflin, right? Sabre, Michael Scott Paper Company. If you guys are office nerds like me, you'll appreciate that. I'd love to have Dunder Mifflin as a client, but right, that's the type of client, the type of merchant that we're thinking for this. Again, office equipment falls under here, so you can see that naturally these are going to be B2B, right? They're offices. General merchandise stores was kind of another weird catch-all. I'll have to do some more research into that, but I think there were some specific merchants that were skewing that data. Equipment rental and leasing, right? So if you need to go out there and rent a Skyjack or a dozer or something like that, I think of like your local John Deere or Caterpillar, they might be renting out, or rental companies, right? That's a good one. And then again, it's going to go back to medical, right? Which a lot of people don't think of medical being super B2B, but you have, right, again, the suppliers, but then you have the labs themselves, right, that are doing biological research or just general laboratories, because their clients a lot of the times are the hospitals, right, or even the insurers that are going to be paying directly, and those are going to be commercial credit cards. And somehow podiatrists snuck their way on here. I don't know if insurers were doing a lot of level 2 or level 3 with them, but I thought that was kind of funny, getting the foot doctors on B2B. And this is going to be the last chart that I show you because, like I said, it's a lot of numbers. But these are the highest average level 3 transactions. And I pulled this one out specifically because these ones, well, 2 reasons. One is that these are going to see the highest impact on kind of a per transaction basis, right? So every time we're running a sale, you can save X amount of dollars, which is kind of nice. But not only that, is that a lot of these types of transactions will qualify for an interchange rate called large ticket. And large ticket, I forget the current numbers, and granted, if you're watching this as a recording, this will be dated, but something like Visa and MasterCard have a threshold that if the transaction's over like $7,000 or $11,000, I'll have to find these numbers for you guys, it can qualify for a really special rate that's as low as like 1.4% plus $35 per transaction, which is significantly lower than those high 2, low 3%. So when you look at this list, we're adding in another vertical in education, which I thought was kind of cool. Again, another SIC code that's not often thought of as B2B, because as students ourselves, if we went to some sort of professional kind of secondary education, we're taking out loans, we're paying this out of our own pockets. But a lot of businesses will subsidize these expenses, or they'll cover the expenses for their employees if they need some sort of additional technical certifications, right? I think of software industries, I think of automotive industries, things like that, that really want to have people that have all these different certifications to them. So again, high tickets, right? School is not cheap. So we see a lot of high tickets in there. Those medical labs, right? They might be racking up some really high bills. Those equipment rental and leasing's not cheap. You're probably paying thousands of dollars to rent or lease some large equipment. Engineers, architects, surveyors all kind of fall under the same category. And then one that I thought was kind of cool that I had to do some more research on was typesetting. I didn't realize that this was a current industry, but typesetting, if you're not aware, is kind of the science of spacing out written language, right? So how all the letters are put on here and spaced out is a form of typesetting. And luckily for me, PowerPoint does that for me, but there are businesses that work with publishers or work with advertisers that really work on typesetting, font type, font size, spacing of lettering, spacing of words. And it's a large business, right? Average transaction is over $5,000. So I don't know the last typesetter that you may have called, but it might be time to look up to see if you have any local typesetting businesses. And any one of these, right? Any one of these. These are all going to be very good prospects for a solution like PayTrace that has all these B2B tools that can not only manage all of their payments, but also hopefully drive down some of the costs for them. All right, so that's all the data. Do with it what you will. What I want to round this off with, let's see how we're doing time-wise, we're right off schedule, is just some tips from some of the experts that have done a lot of business with us. I will say some of the processing numbers that I've listed below are a little outdated. But the first gentleman I interviewed, his name is Richard. At the time of this, he was very new to PayTrace, but not new to the industry. But I really enjoyed talking with him, and he was a wealth of knowledge. So I was going to pick his brain. But I asked Richard, I said, what advice would you just give a rep starting off in B2B payment sales, right? Because this is going to be a different sales process than more of your retail. And his big thing is interchange, right? Kind of what we've been talking about throughout this conversation, but educating yourself on interchange. Being able to look at a statement and identify all of the areas of improvement and inefficiencies that are currently on there, right? If depending on the statement itself. But knowing the card types and knowing the associated interchange rates. Believe it or not, there's not really that many card types that you need to know. And it's pretty easy to poke out some of those really high rates, like 3%. It's pretty obvious that's too high. So take some time, educate yourself on that, and then be able to share that information with the client, with the CFO or accounting person, or whoever is the prospect, the decision maker, right? It's going to do you a lot of favors. Now, if you'd like help with this one in particular, what's nice is that on our website, if you go to paytrace.com, under this payment solutions link, you'll find a section called interchange and revenue optimization. And we've actually done a lot of the legwork on this for you, in that we've put together a few different tables for both MasterCard and for Visa, which shows the different eligible card types and what the associated rates are, right? So if we're looking at Visa corporate cards, right, I know that by putting them on a level 3 solution like PayTrace, it's going to qualify at 1.9%. If they're not doing level 2 or level 3, I would look at a statement and I'd probably see numbers like 2.7 or 2.95, right? So all I need to do is look for Visa corporate or Visa purchasing and match that up. And it's pretty simple. So what's cool about these charts is these are downloadable, right? Go on to the website, click on the link. You can print this off, download it, email it, do whatever you want. It's got current rates, and we will be updating these every April and October when the card brands have their new kind of interchange numbers coming out. So number one, right? do a little self-education. That's why we're here. Number two, I reached out to a gentleman named Ryan, and Ryan is very well known in the industry now. He's C-level for one of the largest processors that are out there. And I've had the pleasure of working with him throughout my time at PayTrace. So I asked Ryan, whose processor actually does kind of all types of payments, B2B, retail, a little bit of everything. So I asked him, what are some of the differences that you see between selling retail versus B2B? And I love this quote because it's a sports metaphor, and I'm a sucker for sports metaphors. So he compares it to a boxing match, right? B2B sales. It's not always about that quick, big knockout punch, right? Boxing matches can be long. There's multiple rounds. So it's a lot of these kind of little jabs that might end up leading to a scorecard decision or eventually a knockout, right? PayTrace, and then he calls out PayTrace, right? PayTrace gives us the ability to get a lot of these quick jabs and wear down the competition. I thought that was cool. I thought it was a very cool quote. Overall, right, I think some of the takeaways from what Ryan is saying on here is that sales cycles going to be a lot longer, right? You might have some competition. A lot of the times they might be shopping around and getting RFPs from multiple different providers, right? But having a solution like PayTrace in your back pocket is probably going to set you apart from some of the other solutions that are out there. So compare it to boxing, right? Right, and these sales cycles could take months. I've seen some that take over a year. For the right merchant, it's worth it. And then lastly, I asked Rick, and Rick's one of the OG PayTrace reps. At the time of this interview, he was processing $250 million on us annually, much higher than that now. I want to say closer to 400 million annual. So he's doing okay. So I asked Rick, I said, you do really well at this. What challenges do you run into? Do you still run into any issues? And he said, yeah, all the time. Literally, the number one thing that I struggle with is getting a hold of the right person. When you look at retail, the decision maker is usually pretty obvious. It's the owner, or it might be a manager. With B2B, it could be one person, it could be multiple people, it could be, again, financial officer, it could be an owner, it could be a controller, it could be somebody on the sales team, right? And you might have to have a lot of conversations. And not only that, is that you're going to have to undo a lot of misconceptions that they've been told from others. These people, right, B2B, people are typically very smart, very knowledgeable, but they don't know everything, and they listen to us, right, what we tell them. And unfortunately, I don't want to say bad actors in our space there, but there are some people that overpromise and underdeliver, or might not educate merchants as well as they should. So for a lot of these merchants, right, you might have to do some teaching, some education. So I think one thing that stood out to me about his answer was be a consultant, not a salesperson. And that's what I like about this, is that it's consultative sales. It's not necessarily, right, we're going in there and we're just slinging terminals. So ask a lot of questions, learn about their business, and do your due diligence in making sure that they know everything that they need to. All right, so with that, we are coming up at the end of time. I do want to say, if you guys do have questions after the fact, I will provide my contact information here, but we really do have some of the best support in the industry. If you do need to get a hold of somebody at really any time during business hours, you can pick up the phone and call us. We're going to pick up within 20 seconds or less. We're all in the United States. These are all PayTrace employees that handle our support. So just know that you're going to get all the information and the answers that you need. And you're here because you want to sell more, right? What's kind of cool about PayTrace is that we really work hand in hand with our sales partners, with our channel partners. We want you to be successful, right? When you're successful, we're successful. So if there's any resources that I can help provide you, or that my team can help, if you have a prospect that you need a little assist with, let us know. And we're happy to help you out with that. So at this time, open discussion. I actually don't see any questions in there, so I'm going to hang on for another minute. But while we're doing that, here's some contact information for us. Email and phone number for our support at paytrace.com, or give us a call at that 888 number. Again, you'll get an immediate response. With me, you'll get a quick response, might not be immediate, but if you do want to get a hold of me directly, again, my name is Sam Johnson. You can find me at salestraining@paytrace.com. That's going to be the best way to get a hold of me. Again, salestraining@paytrace.com. If you have any training needs, if you have a team that you work with that you'd like to be educated on B2B processing, PayTrace in general, I'm more than happy to set aside some time for that. So let me know. All right. And with that said, let's go ahead and close this out. Team, thank you for your time today. We do have part 3 of this course coming in next week. So if you haven't registered for that already, check our blog, check your email, check, I believe, our LinkedIn. We might post a reminder for that. But that's going to be all around the actual presentation of PayTrace. How do we deliver an impactful demo? So hope to see you all there. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Take care.